This is Beatles60. I'm Adrian, and we are jumping around a little bit. Hey, check this out.
See how they smile like pigs in a sty. See how this night I'm crying. Elementary penguins singing Hare Krishna. Man, you should have seen them kicking Edgar Allan
This is Sir Laurence Olivier's voice, expertly cloned by 11 labs. Greetings, dear listener. Allow me to usher you into the enchanting world of It Was 60 Years Ago Today, Beatles Daily, the Facebook group affiliated with the illustrious Beatles60 podcast. They embark on a daily immersion into the year 1964, observing events and developments as they unfold with each passing day. They meticulously note the specific daily activities of the Beatles, chronicling their every move with the precision of a devoted scribe. This is the essence of documenting history, recording the past, engaging in historical analysis, and interpreting events with a keen eye for contextual understanding and meaningful insights. Imagine, if you will, the intrigue and charm of engaging with the Beatles' story in real time. Each day brings new developments, weaving a continuous narrative that echoes the allure of a daily soap opera. They invite you to step into the shoes of the fifth Beatle, understanding their emotions, challenges, and triumphs as if you were part of their extraordinary journey, offering a unique and immersive experience. The essence of the Beatles60 project is captured through this daily soap opera feel, where the audience is engaged with the Beatles' story in real time, noting daily developments and creating a continuous narrative. It's as if you are living alongside them, feeling the highs and lows, the excitement and the struggles.
When did you first realize that?
When I was about 7, actually.
Really?
I was at the back of the class and teacher said, "Lennon, you're not attending." I couldn't even see him.
This perspective, which we call the fifth Beatle perspective, allows you to immerse yourself fully in their world, understanding their emotions, challenges, and triumphs, as if being part of their journey.
Remember that scene in A Hard Day's Night where George Harrison stumbles into an advertising agency only to be mistaken for a young model candidate or whatever? That was a great scene, wasn't it? That's where we meet the character Simon Marshall, the quintessential out-of-touch ad man who's eager to sell the youth on the next big thing without really understanding what they want, right? Does that make sense? Yeah, that's what Simon is like.
You're listening to the Beatles60 podcast.
So, one moment George is regarded as a potential trend-setting informant from the youth. What happens, of course, is that his authenticity does inadvertently make him a genuine trendsetter for a moment, until his blunt opinions give Simon a bad vibe, and George is ordered out. In the same way that A Hard Day's Night portrayed Simon as out of touch with real youth culture, the music industry of the early 60s, as we can see in these weekly music mags, was apparently brimming with figures just like him, desperate to predict and capitalize on what the youth would find cool, and to try to divine when on the calendar of youth trends the next big thing was due, and of course missing the mark by a wide margin, usually. Well, the irony in early 1964 was that they actually got it right with both Bluebeat and the Beatles, or to put it more accurately, the marketing admin finally caught up and got with it. Or I guess they had no choice but to be with it at this point. And that's a kind of interesting thing. Maybe that's the lesson, if there's a moral to A Hard Day's Night or a lesson for us in history from that film, it's kind of the turning point where the ad men aren't needed anymore to decide what the next big thing was going to be. The kids would have their say, basically, The new generation, it was such an enormous demographic, and they were so enthusiastic about things like the Beatles or dancing music. If you're a mod, you don't need to guess anymore. The era of guessing is now over. Maybe it was a very 1950s thing, kind of, or early 1960, 61, 62. It was a period of guessing. It's the interregnum between rock and roll in the late 50s and then finally the British invasion, now in the emerging mid-60s. So in those early 60s, that's maybe a time when the magazines really didn't know which way things were going to go, or was it going to be Calypso, or they couldn't predict. We remember the Beatles were trying to predict, and they didn't realize that they would be the next big thing. So they didn't need to predict some kind of fad. They would be it. It would be Beatle music.
What? Twister. Wow. Yeah.
Beatles 60, we're jumping around. We're jumping around.
Okay, so how do we know all this? It's all probably in books. This isn't a new discovery. I'm not some kind of genius or anything. I just wanted to share with you the Beatles60 way of living in the history itself in daily, sequential, literally daily, sequential review of the vintage media, photos exactly 60 years ago each day. First-hand experiences of group members from exactly 60 years ago, from things that happened. And of course, excerpts from biographies related to the same day. So we do rely on all the main Beatles authors, all the resources that are out there, but very specifically what they're all saying about this day 60 years ago. Exactly 60 years in the past. With very little effort, we're just sort of reliving 1964, but it doesn't really take much work. It's a very passive way to learn. I love it. You can tell, right? I'm enthusiastic about this. Key point, insights jump out at us simply from the juxtaposition of that day's photos, audio or video clips from the day, along with stories about what happened that day and scans of what people were reading in the print media that day. Each day, we deeply immerse ourselves in that day 60 years ago, so we're full of context. Then that day ends, we wake up the next day, and so we're getting context in sequence, just like we all get in current daily life, right? And in your life right now, we're getting context in sequence in our everyday life. That should be a term used for understanding culture or for gaining insight into culture, context in sequence. Because that's all we're doing. Really. That's what we're sort of doing almost passively. It's implied in some fields of research in the humanities and interpretive social sciences, but if you do a search for the phrase context in sequence, you only find it in mathematics or also in LLMs, large language models, which are like artificial neural networks. So maybe I'm coining this term. Ooh. That makes me fancy. I mean, we should claim it for interpretive social science, like a method of longitudinal social research. Maybe if we say context in sequence in French, it'll magically become an academic thing. Wait, let me see. How do we do that? Contexte en séquence. Contexte en séquence. That sounds good. Like mise en scène sounds very fancy. Or better yet, German. Hold on. Kontext in der Reihenfolge. Kontext in der Reihenfolge.
1, 2, 3, 4.
This is Beatles60. I'm Larry. Hallo zusammen, hier ist der Beatles60 Podcast. Ich bin Larry. Salut à tous, c'est le podcast Beatles60. Moi, c'est Larry. Konnichiwa minasan, Beatles60 のポッドキャストで僕はラリです。生麦生米生卵レッツゴーイエー。Hola a todos, este es el podcast Beatles60. Soy Larry. 这是一个名为 Beatles60 的播客，我叫 Larry， 请关注此播客，也许这是学習英語的好方法。안녕하세요,是 Beatles60 팟캐스트입니다. 저는 Larry입니다. G'day, this is Beatles60. I'm a larrikin, fair dinkum, mates.
You don't need to say fair dinkum. They know it's you.
에이드리언 애덤 앤더슨의 페르소나는 Larry가 목소리를 낸 Larry 창조물입니다.
They proclaim their commitment with vigor. Beatles60, we ain't jumping around. This bold declaration emphasizes their unwavering dedication to following the story in a linear, detailed, and immersive manner. This approach ensures that every detail, every nuance of the Beatles' lives during this period is captured and shared with the audience, creating a rich and engaging experience. Join them in this grand endeavor and let your experience be as rich and rewarding as the history they seek to unfold. With every word and every note, may you find yourself captivated by the timeless tale of the Beatles. This journey is not just about the big moments, but also the small, seemingly insignificant events that together weave the tapestry of the Beatles' incredible journey. By observing events and developments day by day, we gain a deeper understanding of their progression and influence over time. This method allows us to appreciate the context and significance of each event, providing a fuller, more nuanced picture of their lives and careers.
Hi there. We know this video is mostly audio, but we hope you'll enjoy listening while doing other activities like washing up or jogging. For a more immersive experience, check out our podcast and join our Facebook group. Links are in the show notes. Thanks for staying with us. Hey there, she exclaimed cheerily. The 1960s might seem like ages ago, but you can totally relive that fab time with the Fabs every single day. With Beatles60, you get to follow the Beatles' journey exactly as it happened 60 years ago. No spoilers, just their story unfolding day by day. Tune into our podcast where we chat with experts and people who are actually there, talking about all the big moments, and even the grotty moments in their rise to fame. Plus, join our Facebook group to hang out with other hipsters, fans, et al. Join and discuss all things 1964. We cover so much more than the Beatles. If you're more of a Kinks fan or a Stones fan, or more into jazz or classical whatever, you'll still find these groups interesting if late 20th century history interests you. Even for those of us who remember 60 years ago, back then we didn't have all this info. I mean this vast and varied Beatleological literature at our fingertips, did we? No, we didn't. And no internet, just the music. We didn't follow their every move like we can now. But now, we finally can.
our human insights gained from exposure to context in sequence isn't simply like rapid statistical trial and error like machines. We might be slower. You know, we humans, we are meat puppets. We might be slower, but we have empathy and tastes and common sense. There's no artificial version of that yet, and there won't be for a long time. But let's put the academic mumbo-jumbo aside. Instead, I'll just quickly share one example. This is going to be very impressive. You wait. Don't leave. Don't move on to another podcast. Stay with me. Listen, just 6 days after the Beatles returned to London from America, and just 4 days after Prince Buster arrived from Jamaica, both of them through what would later be called Heathrow Airport, the music magazine Pop Weekly published an article headlined, "Bluebeat breaks out in a big way." And just so you understand, this is how we know. This is how we know what they were all talking about. This is just an example. And I'll read it aloud. Quote, "It looks as though the Bluebeat is going to be the big thing with mods this year. This dance, which has been popular with really with it teams for some time now, is getting a terrific boost on disc from the major record companies, and there is, of course, the Bluebeat label itself stepping up output of this throbbing, incessant beat. Based on original West Indian rhythms, the Bluebeat is now moving on from being the rave of small select bands of mods to become a nationwide craze, which seems to support the quote that what the mods do today, the rest of the country does tomorrow." End quote. This is just one example. We can see this month in 1964 that all the British weeklies were raving about the trend. It wasn't just Pop Weekly. This is just an example. The new Bluebeat craze was reported in Disc magazine and, in the other music industry weeklies as well. We see this all happening at once. We see the scans because a main contributor to our group, Kevin, hi Kevin, posts these pages from the music press 60 years ago every week. So we're reading what the Beatles and Epstein and the guys at EMI were reading. We know exactly the publication date. We're probably reading it the same time 60 years later that those guys were reading it. Bluebeat was the new thing. We see this in many articles, but also in prominent advertisements from labels putting out these singles, like Prince Buster's song Madness. All these ads are also very informative for us in the British music weeklies from 60 years ago exactly. So, February ends and March begins like a lion, I guess. The Beatles filming is top news, but Bluebeat is also all over these pages.
In documenting history, they engage in rigorous historical analysis, ensuring that each event is accurately recorded and interpreted. This approach is complemented by a hermeneutical perspective, where events are not just recorded, but also interpreted and understood within their broader context. This dual approach of documenting and interpreting ensures that the history of the Beatles is not only preserved, but also made meaningful and accessible to all. The Facebook group, "It was 60 years ago today," Beatles Daily, is a community of like-minded individuals who share a passion for the Beatles and their incredible journey. They come together to share insights, discuss daily developments, and immerse themselves in the world of the Beatles. This group provides a platform for fans to connect, share their thoughts and experiences, and engage in lively discussions about the Beatles' lives and music playing. Through this project, they aim to create a unique, immersive experience that allows fans to relive the Beatles' journey in real time. By following their story in a linear, detailed, and immersive manner, they offer a new way to experience and understand the Beatles' history. This approach not only preserves the history of the Beatles, but also brings it to life, allowing fans to experience it as if they were there 60 years ago.
If the 60s feel like a distant memory, imagine jumping back 60 years and seeing the world, again or for the first time, as it was then. You'll get to explore the media, arts and music of that time and feel the changes and challenges people faced. Picture yourself watching, following behind the scenes daily, hearing their music just as it was, and feeling what they probably felt in the moment, not just what they later shared. In our podcast, we look back 60 years to see what the Beatles and their contemporaries were up to in that part of the year. We chat about the Fab Four's evolution and feature interviews with folks who wrote about them or were there when they hit it big. Our Facebook group tracks the Beatles' journey day by day as it happened 60 years ago. Use it as a daily reference to chat about the Beatles, sharing your thoughts and ideas on various topics. The context of the 60s is super important because the Beatles didn't exist in a bubble. Beatles60 is for anyone curious about the real story of the Beatles and their era. We aim to give independent, unbiased insights. We look at the Beatles' impact and relevance through the eyes of those who lived through the 60s. Unlike other groups, we're not here to rank the Beatles or compare them to other artists. We want to understand how they evolved within the 60s and what lessons we can learn from their story. Join us in this journey of discovery if you're as interested as we are. Join Beatles60 on Facebook or subscribe to our podcast to feel like you're back in the 60s with the Beatles every day. Enjoy community forums, in-depth analyses, and unique content all for free. Here's how. Follow the podcast link on Beatles60.group, choose your podcast app, and hit follow or subscribe to get our podcasts. Or click Join Group to become a member of our Facebook group. Don't miss out on this chance to relive the 60s with the Beatles every day. Join Beatles60 now. Come on, join us.
Thanks for sticking with us. Remember, you can always find
more detailed content
in our podcast and join lively discussions in our Facebook group. Links are in the show notes.
We appreciate your
Keep
support.
listening.
Thanks for staying with us.
The Facebook group, It Was 60 Years Ago Today, Beatles Daily, is a community of like-minded individuals who share a passion for the Beatles and their incredible journey. They come together to share insights, discuss daily developments, and immerse themselves in the world of the Beatles. This group provides a platform for fans to connect, share their thoughts and experiences, and engage in lively discussions about the Beatles' lives and music playing. Through this project, they aim to create a unique, immersive experience that allows fans to relive the Beatles' journey in real time. By following their story in a linear, detailed, and immersive manner, they offer a new way to experience and understand the Beatles' history. This approach not only preserves the history of the Beatles, but also brings it to life, allowing fans to experience it as if they were there 60 years ago. So, dear listener, join them in this grand endeavor. Let your experience be as rich and rewarding as the history they seek to unfold. With every word and every note, may you find yourself captivated by the timeless tale of the Beatles, reliving their journey as if you were part of it. This is not just a story, it is an experience, a journey back in time to the golden era of the Beatles, where you can immerse yourself in their world and share in their incredible journey.
Sorry for the random sequence of clips we're sampling in this episode. We just want to quickly go back and mention the debunking of the false story that Ed Sullivan had noticed Beatlemania while at London Airport in October 1963. It's just something we wanted to repeat. Capitol released I Want to Hold Your Hand at the end of 1963, launching Beatlemania in the U.S., making I Want to Hold Your Hand a massive hit.
John Lennon said,
Brian was a beautiful guy, Brian Epstein, and he was an intuitive, theatrical guy, and he knew we had something, and he presented us well.
The Beatles were global news more than 3 months before they landed at JFK in February. The truth is that the connection was almost inevitable. The Sullivan at the airport story must have appealed to these guys, more than any genuine retelling. So we get a fairy tale.
Contrary to myths, Ed Sullivan didn't randomly discover the Beatles at London Airport. He knew about them.
The fairy tale was repeated by Sullivan, by the Beatles, by Epstein, and so many gullible biographers and historians. And, it's circulated all over social media these days. In our Facebook group, a member of the group commented the other day. They commented, "For years, I've heard the story about Sullivan encountering Beatlemania at the airport in England and deciding he wanted them for his show. There's probably multiple versions of what really happened, and who knows?" But are there really multiple versions of reality?
Suddenly, the world I used to know, I see it differently. You woke me from a dream, now here's reality. Baby, baby, you are really hurting me. Truthfully, the game that you've been playing felt so real to me. I once believed that you could be my destiny. Baby, baby, you are really hurting me. 'Cause every time you tell me I look good and that I'm doing fine, but nothing ever changes. And now I see, baby, you are hurting me. Stuck in repeat. Stop lying. I know you're playing your part, but baby, it's breaking my heart. How could I know? If you don't need me, just let me know when I go. When I go. When I go. 'Cause I go. Who is she? How can you reject me so damn easily? Who are you and what are we? Baby, baby, you are really hurting me. I know you're playing your part, but baby, it's breaking my heart. How could I know? If you don't need me, just let me know when I go. I know you're playing your part, but baby, it's breaking my heart. How could I know? If you don't need me, just let me know. You're leaving your car, got lost in your heart. I'm falling apart, stop lying. Don't know who you are, baby, anymore. I'm dying. I know you're playing your part, but baby, it's breaking my heart. How could I know? If you don't need me, just let me know when I go. I know you're playing your part, 'cause I go, but baby, it's breaking my heart. How could I know? If you don't need me, just let me know when I go.
You've made it this far. Thank you. For more detailed content, remember, subscribe to our podcast and join our Facebook group. All the links you need are in the show notes. We appreciate your
Keep
support.
Thanks for
listening.
staying with us.
nothing to do to save his life. Call his wife in. Go to a show, you hope she goes. I've got nothing to say, but it's okay. Good morning, good morning, good. Town is getting dark, everyone you see is full of life. It's time for tea and meet the wife. Somebody needs to know the time, glad that I'm here. Watching the skirt, you start to flirt, now you're in gear. Go to a show, you hope she goes. I've got nothing to say, but it's okay. Good morning, good morning, good. 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 Yeah, yeah. Good morning, good morning, good. Yeah. Good morning, good morning, good. Good morning, good morning, good. Hey! Everybody! That'll do. That'll do. Everyone you see is full of life. It's time for tea and meet the wife. Somebody needs to know the time, glad that I'm here.